right, Chief, go ahead. If there's anything that you want to add before we ask questions.
Hello, everyone. The reason I'm here today is just to talk about the Lock It Down campaign. Again, just kind of get that reminder out there for our citizens here in the Quad Cities about locking the vehicles up for the year. This is a really important reminder for everybody, because what we generally see is people will kind of take things for granted, back to their normal routines, and we got to keep this ever present and to the forefront for awareness here. So just the three basic things that will make this very easy for us all regarding to the Lock It Down campaign is always keep your car locked. That's the number one thing. 2, never leave it running unattended. If you leave it running unattended, that presents an opportunity. Even if you have the fob with you, someone can still take your car if you leave it running without the fob present once it's running. So never leave your cars running, never leave the fob in the car. And third, just never leave your keys in the car. So again, always lock it up, never leave it running unattended, and never leave your keys in the car. Those three simple things would help us tremendously here in the Quad Cities. Some of the trends that we have seen here over the last few years is, as Davenport stated, Davenport's stolen vehicle numbers are a little bit down compared to last year. However, Bettendorf's are actually up from last year a little bit. So, for instance, last year we had 42, this year we had 55. But the other trend that I can tell you is looking at the Quad Cities as a whole, both metro and outlying areas, and this is both in Iowa and Illinois, Rock Island and Scott County, we've actually seen an overall increase of stolen cars in the Quad Cities. We went roughly from the mid 700s to over just over 800 vehicles this year, and that includes all law enforcement agencies in Rock Island and Scott County. So what that tells me is the trend maybe here is the people that are doing these crimes are starting to migrate outside the city of Davenport more and looking for other crimes of opportunity in other communities in the Quad Cities, both cities and towns, but also in the rural areas. So even in your rural areas or outlying areas in the Quad Cities, I really urge people to remember to lock it down.
It's that time of year when, which Jeff already touched on, but it's cold. People want to get into a nice warm car. But you don't want to sit there while it's warming up either because it's cold. If you had 2 sets of keys and you started your car and then locked the door so you had that other set of keys to unlock it, or is it still a huge opportunity?
To me, it's still an opportunity, because the fact that the car's running, all someone has to do is smash the window and off they go. And understand that these are crimes of opportunity, and yes, they're random. They occur everywhere. There's nowhere in the Quad Cities that you're immune from this. Geographically, it doesn't matter where you live, but understand what we've seen with the trends is when the offenders are out there, they're actually out there looking for these opportunities. It's not that someone's just necessarily out there driving around and they look over and say, oh, I'm going to take this. Generally, we've seen 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals get in a car and their specific intent is to drive around town looking for these crimes of opportunity.
What about, it kind of boggles the mind the fact that so many car thefts, what are they doing with these vehicles once they steal them? Are they looking to chop them? Are they looking, is it just a joyride, or what is it? What are you guys seeing?
So what we're seeing, these vehicles, first of all, vehicles with the technology and everything with the new vehicles, none of these cars are getting hot wired. I can pretty much tell you every single car that has been stolen is because it's been unlocked and there's been access to keys or a key fob. No, there's no such thing really as hot wiring cars anymore. So to answer your other question, which I forgot now.
What are they doing with these vehicles?
So in regards to what they're doing with these vehicles is they're using them for other crimes. They're driving them around town. They're driving them recklessly. not obeying any of the traffic laws. They are running, they generally will flee and run from the police and elude the police. They don't comply with law enforcement. They're using them in other robberies, shootings, thefts, assaults, you name it. It's a way for them to kind of give them easy mobility around town to be able to find their victims, and also some anonymity as far as they have no direct relationships with these cars because they don't belong to them. So that's why they're doing it. I would tell you that most of the cars, to your point about the chop shops, they're not being resold or taken out of the area. Most of these cars are being relocated or found here where they were stolen from, somewhere in the Quad Cities. So most of them are recovered here locally.
Two quick questions for you, Chief. One, when you say last year, or when you say this year with the 700 to 800 number, is that talking about year 2021?
Correct. Comparing 2020 to 2021.
Okay.
So the overall number of vehicle thefts going from 2020 to 2021 overall, Quad City wide, has actually increased to a little over 800 vehicles this year, and I believe they were in about last year. The overall total was about in the 750s. So it's like I said, it's still increasing. It may be directed away from certain communities, but to me it's just being redistributed, or they're migrating to other communities overall. So we still have a lot of work to do, and again, we're asking for the public's help and cooperation, because the power and the ability is really in everybody's hands to do this. We just have to get the word out, tell everybody, and if you talk to the victims of these stolen vehicle thefts, you know, it's caused a lot of these people. It's caused a lot of issues in their personal lives. It may have been their only vehicle. They may only had liability insurance on it. So this is their way of life, to be able to commute around town, have a job, and it can really impact somebody, because if that's their only mode of transportation. And most of these cars we get back are in not good shape. Some of them aren't drivable. They've been smashed. They've driven really hard. So again, if you talk to anybody who's been victimized by this, I think if they had to do it all over again, they would certainly listen to us.
One last question for you, Chief. How often are you seeing these cars being used in other crimes? Is it pretty much certain that if a car is stolen, that it's going to be involved in some other type of crime, or is that kind of hit or miss too?
It's kind of hit or miss. I mean, generally what law enforcement does here locally is we have all the lists of cars that are stolen, and one of our biggest efforts is to try to get that car found or recovered as soon as possible, because then we've just taken that vehicle or mode of transportation away from them to be able to commit other crimes. So many of these cars are maybe recovered at another location prior to being used in a crime, but that's why we want to get them recovered. I can't give you a percentage of how many, but the whole idea is get those cars recovered and back off the streets as quick as possible, out of their hands, so they can't commit crime.